Since the Battle of Pompeii, Crixus has finally made a comeback and become the equal of Spartacus in the arena. Now, Crixus fights not only for honor but also for the woman he loves. He aims to win enough prize money to buy freedom for both himself and his beloved. However, during their intimate moments, they are completely unaware that their affair is being closely observed by Ashur, and this was to be their last moment of pleasure. Today's Ashur is no longer the man he used to be, since his significant contribution in the last event. Betrayal has released him from slavery and appointed him as the chief steward of internal affairs. Betrayal also stated that Ashur could choose any female slave in the mansion to be his woman. Ashur was flattered, and the slave he chose was Naevia, with whom Crixus had an affair. He did this in retaliation for Crixus breaking his leg. The next day, Crixus, still in the dark, finds Spartacus. He eagerly anticipates a life-and-death duel with Spartacus to reclaim the championship title that he believes is rightfully his. However, Spartacus no longer cares about the glory of the arena. To him, such glory is nothing but risking one's life for the amusement of Romans. Now, Spartacus's only desire is to find an opportunity to kill Betrayal and avenge his deceased wife. After the incident of killing Aulus, Mira has guessed Spartacus's intention to kill Betrayal, but Mira keeps this to herself. As her long association with Spartacus has made her fall in love with him, Mira tries to stop Spartacus, explaining that Roman law dictates that if a slave kills their master, all slaves must be buried alive with him, meaning, if Betrayal dies, all slaves in the mansion will be executed. However, Spartacus, blinded by hatred, refuses to heed Mira's advice. Soon, the opportunity for revenge finally arrives. That day, Betrayal summons Spartacus. From his words, it's evident that Betrayal has been busy entertaining General Glaber. Betrayal has never given up his political ambitions, especially since Caladius's death, deciding to cozy up to General Glaber to advance his political career. Thinking of the enmity between Spartacus and Glaber, Betrayal summons Spartacus earlier to ensure he behaves and doesn't disrupt his political aspirations. Spartacus agrees outwardly, but inwardly, he seeks a chance to kill Betrayal. At that moment, Spartacus notices a fruit knife on the table. Just as he prepares to act, he suddenly sees a new slave bought by Betrayal, who is none other than Aurelia, the wife of Spartacus's dear friend Varro. After a moment of thought, Spartacus withdraws his hand. He might disregard the lives of other slaves, but he cannot ignore Varro's last wish to protect his family.
What is she doing here?
Working beneath my employ to pay off Varro's debts.
I pledged my winnings to such a cause. You did not tell her this?
Of course. She would have no coin from your purse nor mine unless it was obtained by means of fair labor. She wishes to serve the house of Gladiators until all his debts are balanced.
After the failed assassination attempt, Spartacus secretly meets Aurelia, urging her to leave the mansion. But Aurelia, still believing Spartacus to be solely responsible for Varro's death, refuses to listen to her enemy. With no other choice, Spartacus begins searching for another way to kill Betrayal. At the same time, Crixus feels that Naevia has become colder towards him recently. Seizing an opportunity, Crixus asks her what has happened. Under pressure, Naevia tearfully tells Crixus that she has been given to another man by their master. Crixus is shocked and urgently inquires about the name of this person, but Naevia does not reveal it to him. As they, being slaves, are powerless to change anything, Lucretia summons Crixus, seeking a soulful connection. However, just then, she suddenly realizes that there seems to be a small life stirring in her womb. That evening, when Betrayal returns, Lucretia shares the joyous news of her pregnancy with him. Betrayal is overjoyed. The good news keeps coming. The next day, General Glaber visits the mansion. Upon seeing Glaber, Betrayal immediately proposes the hope of taking up a minor official role. Even the lowest would suffice. Betrayal considers himself an excellent talent, having trained various prisoners and criminals into outstanding gladiators. Managing civil affairs, he believes, would be no problem for him.
They do favor Betrayal men like no others, especially Spartacus.
The Thracian.
Mentioning Spartacus reminds Glaber of their past grudges. Consequently, Glaber orders Betrayal to bring out all the gladiators and publicly humiliates Spartacus in front of everyone. Spartacus, remembering Betrayal's earlier instructions, avoids direct conflict with Glaber, but Glaber does not intend to let things go easily. He arranged for Spartacus, armed with a wooden sword, to duel against soldiers wielding iron swords and clad in armor. Seizing the opportunity to kill Spartacus once and for all, Betrayal, wanting to prove his effective management in front of Glaber, does not intervene. Unexpectedly, Spartacus, upon seeing his enemy, fights with extraordinary bravery. Under the relentless attacks of 7 soldiers, Spartacus cleverly dodges all assaults and defeats all his opponents. This causes Glaber to lose face, not expecting his prisoner to be trained so fiercely by Betrayal. Glaber, like Gladiators, has always looked down upon Betrayal's background and family. To make Betrayal back down, Glaber immediately proposes that he will provide support if Spartacus kneels before him. Betrayal hastily urges Spartacus to do so, but Spartacus remains indifferent, until Spartacus sees Aurelia. To protect her well-being, does he reluctantly kneel and bow his head?
Legatus.
Spartacus's action undoubtedly proves Betrayal's managerial capabilities. While Glaber is in a dilemma, Ashur, standing nearby, deliberately makes intimate gestures towards Naevia. His purpose is to enrage Crixus and make the affair between Crixus and Naevia public. The simple-minded Crixus, seeing this, indeed falls for it and furiously rushes up to give Ashur a beating. Crixus's frenzied act confuses Betrayal. Ashur pretends to be innocent, saying, "I don't know why Crixus is angry. I was just being intimate with my woman." Hearing this, Lucretia finally realizes the truth.
You! How long? How long have you been luring him to your filthy slave camp? You alone knew of my feelings for him, and yet you betray me. Crixus never loved you. He did only as commanded. Bring me a knife.
Meanwhile, Crixus's sudden loss of control provides Glaber with the perfect excuse to reject Betrayal. Glaber immediately mocks Betrayal, stating he can't even control his own slaves, let alone handle other political matters. After saying this, Glaber prepares to leave. Seeing this, Betrayal and his wife, no longer needing to pretend, directly ask Ashur to bring out a box. Inside the box is the hand of Licenia, killed by Ilithia. The Betrayal couple plan to use this as leverage to completely control Glaber.
From your mouth, even so ruined, it would yet speak the truth. Claudius.
Patronage is granted. A portion of my men will remain stationed against further embarrassment. Make all other arrangements with Ilithia. She will be remaining here in Capua.
No.
Thus, Ilithia was kept here by Glaber and became a tool for the Betrayal couple to control. At the same time, Crixus is tied to a post and subjected to cruel punishment, watching his enemy being whipped mercilessly. Ashur smiles with satisfaction. Lucretia's eyes, meanwhile, reveal a mix of love and hate.
I expect your meetings with Crixus to end.
Quintus.
Do not speak. I have always known, and turned I away only because it made you happy and caused me no thought. Set your attentions towards our child, and do not see them stray. Enough!
It turns out Betrayal has always known about Lucretia's affair with Crixus, but Betrayal doesn't blame his wife too much, merely warning her verbally and then letting the matter go. Meanwhile, the unfortunate Naevia, her beloved long hair shorn, is to be sent to the mines the next day to be a slave for life, doing the dirtiest and most tiring manual labor.
Where do they take you?
I do not know.
I will win my freedom, and I will not rest until I find you.
It is time.
Crixus is also thrown into the dungeon. Lucretia, who thought herself so clever, realizes only now that her cunning was merely tolerated by Betrayal. Lucretia is overwhelmed with guilt and self-reproach for her husband's forbearance. She resolves to end her relationship with Crixus and focus wholeheartedly on caring for the child in her womb. Shortly after these events, Betrayal receives great news. Since receiving support from General Glaber, Betrayal's fortunes have soared, and he is set to assume the role of Capua's administrative officer in 2 days. Inimals informs Betrayal that the training ground is completely different now. Before leaving, Glaber left a group of soldiers at the training ground who bully and frequently beat the gladiators for no reason, making their lives miserable. Unable to bear it anymore, Inimals reports this to Betrayal, hoping for some intervention, but Betrayal's response is merely to advise continued endurance. He now has no time for such trivial matters and will shift his focus to politics. Betrayal plans to grant Inimals his freedom and appoint him as the new manager of the training ground. Meanwhile, to celebrate his upcoming role as administrative officer, Betrayal is also planning a celebration to entertain the nobles of Capua. Lucretia immediately suggests they could arrange a visual feast for the nobles by having Spartacus and Crixus face off in a fight to the death.
Was this your hope? That the fallen Gaul is granted opportunity to regain position?
Out. You must stay content.
Betrayal indeed misunderstands her intention. Lucretia's move is actually to show her husband her determination to completely put an end to her dishonorable past. However, Crixus's fighting ability is on par with Spartacus's. To ensure Spartacus's certain victory, Lucretia suggests using a special method to make Crixus disappear without a trace. That very night, Betrayal finds Ashur, the chief steward of internal affairs, and instructs him to secretly buy a powerful drug to poison Crixus's food. This would ensure Crixus's defeat in the fight, while also keeping the nobles from noticing any foul play. The plan seems flawless, but what Betrayal doesn't know is that Spartacus is currently mobilizing the gladiators to join his jailbreak operation. Spartacus has long harbored the idea of killing Betrayal to avenge his wife, and the soldiers' unprovoked beatings of the gladiators have given him an opportunity. However, since Spartacus's time at the training ground is short and his influence is limited, despite being the champion now, many still admire Crixus, the former champion, and look to him for leadership. Currently, the number of people Spartacus can organize is far from enough, with only Agron consistently supporting his decisions. Agron points out that Crixus is a key factor. With Crixus and his followers, the chances of success would be much greater, but Crixus is locked in the dungeon, and it's difficult for others to even see him, let alone communicate, so they must find a way to get Crixus out first. The opportunity finally arrives. Betrayal calls Spartacus for a private meeting at night and asks him to prepare for the match in 2 days. Spartacus takes this chance to suggest that since Crixus is injured and imprisoned, beating him in such a state would be meaningless. He proposes letting Crixus out for proper training, promising to make Crixus lose convincingly. Betrayal, who has already poisoned Crixus's food, doesn't mind releasing him. Spartacus then requests to spend a night with Mira before the match. Betrayal immediately agrees to both his requests. Spartacus wants to meet Mira to ask her to quietly open the gate between the mansion and the training ground, facilitating their escape.
I will see the gate opened. But I would have exchange.
Spartacus fulfills Mira's wish. The next day, Crixus is successfully released. Spartacus finds an opportunity to talk to Crixus about the jailbreak, but Crixus flatly refuses. He doesn't want to risk his brother's lives for freedom through such a risky method. Now, Crixus only wants to survive and save Naevia, who was exiled by Lucretia. Spartacus urges Crixus not to trust Betrayal anymore, and reveals the cause of Sura's death. Crixus believes what Spartacus says, but he doesn't agree to join the jailbreak with him. On the eve of the match, Lucretia, unable to let go of her old feelings, decides to see Crixus one last time and also gives him one final chance. Lucretia tells Crixus that she is carrying his child, and if he admits that his love is not Naevia, she will spare his life. But Crixus refuses to yield. He steadfastly defends his love. The day of the celebration finally arrives, and Betrayal has invited many Roman nobles. These nobles come from prestigious families and are elites in various fields. If they were to die, Capua would surely be thrown into chaos, delaying the pursuit of their deaths. This buys time for their escape. Soon, it's time for the duel. Crixus fights desperately during the match. Spartacus continually tries to persuade him, but Crixus ignores him. Spartacus is forced to fight defensively, and at times, he is even knocked down by Crixus. Meanwhile, Mira can't find an opportunity to open the dungeon gate, so Spartacus intentionally prolongs the fight. Fortunately, This duel is not large in scale, and there are only a few guards present. Glaber's soldiers are all outside the mansion, maintaining order. Mira finds the right moment to sneak up behind the dungeon guard and kills him. Moments later, Spartacus finally sees Myra's signal and begins to counterattack. Only then does Crixus start to feel unwell. Spartacus tells Crixus that Betrayal had already poisoned him beforehand, intending to put him to death. But how did Spartacus come to know such a secret? It turns out that Aurelia overheard Betrayal and Ashur discussing the details of the poisoning. Aurelia suspects that Varro also died in Spartacus's hands after being poisoned in the same manner, so she seeks out Spartacus to confront him. While denying it, Spartacus also reveals to Aurelia that Numerius caused Varro's death. In the stands, Betrayal and the nobles incessantly demand that Spartacus kill Crixus. Only at this moment does Crixus truly give up on the glory of the gladiatorial arena. The so-called glory was only to take his own life to please the Romans. Crixus kneels and raises his shield. This is the tactic they used to defeat Theocles together. Spartacus quickly understands Crixus's intention and immediately jumps onto his shield. Leaping up, this signals the start of a frantic and exhilarating slaughter. Witnessing the slaves' revolt, the nobles in the stands are terrified and scatter in all directions to flee. Spartacus seizes the opportunity and fiercely stabs towards the slave master, Betrayal. However, Enemos suddenly grabs Spartacus's arm with a whip, halting his attack. In their standoff, Crixus leaps up and cuts the ropes. By this time, Betrayal has already taken the chance to escape. Spartacus quickly jumps onto the stands to pursue him. Meanwhile, under Crixus's encouragement, all the gladiators join the rebellion. Long suppressed and exploited, they finally find an outlet for their frustration. They engage in a deadly fight with the guards, unarmed. In an instant, the entire training ground is splattered with blood. Filled with screams, Enemos confronts Crixus, questioning why he initiated the revolt.
Honor! This house is without honor! Gladiators ordered his wife dead! And Domina, she has tainted me because I spoil your f***ing heart! I've given my life to this ludus. Now they stole it from you. Honor us all!
Only now does Enemos learn of the heinous acts Betrayal committed behind the scenes. He throws a blade to kill a guard and officially joins the rebellion. By this time, the nobles have fled into the mansion. Lucretia shouts out an order to Ilithia to summon Glaber's soldiers over for support. Long manipulated by this older woman, Ilithia can't take it anymore and suddenly conceives a malicious plan.
Seal the doors. Let no one beyond them.
What of the guests?
I am the wife of the legatus.
Seal the doors.
To doom Lucretia, Ilithia locks all the nobles inside the mansion. Meanwhile, Spartacus kills all the guards inside the mansion, clearing the way for the gladiators. The gladiators swarm in, indiscriminately slaughtering any noble they catch. In just a few minutes, the entire mansion is plunged into a sea of blood, with corpses everywhere. Unnoticed by all, Ashur quietly hides among the dead, narrowly escaping death. Crixus finds Lucretia and demands to know where Naevia has been sold. How could Crixus still believe her?
Where?
See me and Dominus out of the villa and I will tell.
Seeing Crixus approaching, Lucretia uses the child in her womb as a shield.
Your birth.
Elsewhere, the slave Aurelia follows Numerius to a secluded corner. She secretly grabs a fruit knife and hides it behind her, then tentatively asks Numerius if it was his order that led to Varro's death.
He deserved to die.
In Numerius' mind, the life of a slave is as worthless as grass, but for Aurelia, Varro was her husband and the father of their 2 children. Even if Varro wasn't perfect, he shouldn't have been a tool for the nobles' amusement.
He was mine! He was mine! No! He was mine! 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 No! No! He was mine!
Enemos finds Spartacus and asks if he isn't going to stop now that so many have died. Spartacus replies that he never intended to kill any innocent person. He has always been after only one person's head. By this time, Betrayal is surrounded by the gladiators. Just then, Lucretia, enduring severe pain, walks over.
What would you do to hold your wife again? To feel the warmth of her skin, the taste of her lips. How many men would you kill? 100? 1,000? There stands but one between you and her.
Vatiatus tries to resist, but how could he be a match for Spartacus? Vatiatus then looks towards his most loyal, Enemos, but with Vatiatus's crimes now laid bare, what person of conscience would continue to serve him? Vatiatus resigns to his fate. He tells Spartacus that it was he who made him the champion of Capua, and without him, there would be no Spartacus today. But even now, Vatiatus fails to understand that slaves are not pigs or dogs, they are people with feelings and thoughts. They have finally stepped out of the training ground, their cage, but with the whole of Rome shrouded under the shadow of slavery, where will they go from here?
We have lived and lost at the whims of our masters for too long. I would not have it so. I would not see the passing of a brother for the purpose of sport. I would not see another heart ripped from chest or breath forfeit for no cause. I know not all of you wish this, yet it is done. It is done. Your lives are your own. Forge your own path, or join with us, and together we shall see Rome tremble!